Battle of Boonville is the first battle in our list today. It takes place June 17th, 1861, near Boonville in Cooper County, Missouri. Our first action in Missouri. Everything's been in Virginia thus far. Although casualties were extremely light, the battle's strategic impact was far greater than one might assume from its limited nature.
Ooh.
The Union victory established what would become an unbroken federal control of the Missouri River.
Needed it.
And helped to thwart efforts to bring Missouri into the Confederacy.
Right.
This was the first of 4 battles that were fought at Boonville during the Civil War. So
that was
Boonville, they wanted that Missouri River right there.
Spot. Confederate was like, they ain't gonna come for that right now. They're like, but their unions are like all in Louisiana right now. What makes me think they're not coming to Missouri? Nah, they'll be all right.
Union's not in Indiana.
Louisiana's
part of the Confederacy.
At the onset of the Civil War, Missouri, like many border states in the Union, was deeply divided over whether to support the United States under Abraham Lincoln or join the Confederacy under Jefferson Davis. Mm-hmm. Claiborne F. Jackson, the pro-Confederate governor, wanted his state to succeed. But Missouri's overall sentiment was initially neutral.
Like, why?
An elected state convention did not pass a succession ordinance as Jackson had hoped it might.
Oh, look at that. So, yeah, clearly they don't want to be then.
Right.
Well, however, pro-secession elements did not let the setback dissuade them. They seized the small federal armory in Liberty, Missouri, planning to subsequently confiscate a much more sizable stock of weapons located at the St. Louis Arsenal. This plot was temporarily thwarted by an energetic young officer, Captain Nathaniel Lyon. He allied himself with Missouri Congressman Frank Blair and anti-slavery German immigrants. What's up with the Germans in this war? German immigrants in St. Louis to secure the arsenal for the Union.
Okay.
This Nathaniel Lyon guy, I'm pretty sure, will play a role at Vienna as well.
Right. In the very process, Lyon used a mixed force of United States Army regulators. We're the regulators. U.S. Army regulars and federally enrolled Missouri volunteers, mostly ethnic Germans.
Who knew Missouri had a bunch of Germans?
Right. Lyon used these forces to capture the Missouri Volunteer Militia, which had assembled at Camp Jackson on the outskirts of St. Louis on May 10th, 1861.
And they were purportedly there for an annual drill that they held at the camp. That was by luck.
Right.
Or
was it?
I guess for them, by misfortune.
Right.
When Lyon unwisely attempted to march his prisoners through the streets of St. Louis, a deadly riot erupted.
Oh,
he captured them. Yeah, now he's trying to march them through the street.
Right.
Now a deadly riot erupted. The Missouri General Assembly convened an emergency session that night and passed a series of emergency bills creating the secessionist Missouri State Guard and granting Governor Jackson near dictatorial powers to take any actions necessary to repel invasion and suppress insurrection. Oh, jeez. By Missouri Unionists enlisted in federal forces.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so now, states.
They're forcing their way into the South.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, half of Missouri anyways.
Right. The new Missouri State Guard began organizing statewide in 9 decentralized military districts.
Oh, now they're military districts.
Right. Initially, it's wartime. Initially structured around the independent militia companies of the pre-Camp Jackson MVM, State Guard authorities also worked to manage the large numbers of volunteers who flooded into Jefferson City to protect the state capital from a federal attack that Jackson supporters believed was very, very imminent.
What does this sound like? Is this 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22? Attempts were made to reconcile the two sides. A semi-formal truce was negotiated between General William S. Harney, commander of the Western Department of the U.S. Army, and Missouri State Guard Major General Sterling Price.
Okay.
Heard of that name. They agreed to maintain order in the parts of the state under the control of their various forces, protect the persons and property of all persons.
Okay.
Protect the persons and property of all persons, and avoid actions which might excite conflict.
Okay.
Okay, they're like, let's not get this out of hand, right?
Right.
We don't want to be. We don't want Missouri to become a battleground like
what
we've seen in Virginia.
What you guys have now, you can control that. What we have now, we'll control that.
Try to mess with us.
Right. Harney unofficially agreed to restrict federal forces to metropolitan St. Louis. He generally agreed, though.
Keyword unofficially as well.
Right. Price ordered that the mustering of Missouri State Guard volunteers in Jefferson City be halted. Instead, potential guardsmen were directed to muster with regional commanders in 9 new military districts. The organizational course of action initially envisioned under the post-May 10th military bill.
So stay in your own districts, don't come out of ours, and we'll be all right, basically.
Yep.
General Harney understood that Price would hold the state for the Union, and, in fact, Price promised him that. Should Confederate forces enter Missouri, the MSG would fight the Missouri
State Guards.
Missouri State Guard would fight alongside the U.S. Army to drive the Confederates out.
Would they, though?
At the same time, however, representatives from Governor Jackson and Missouri's Lieutenant Governor Thomas C. Reynolds were meeting with Confederate authorities asking them to send an army into Missouri. Jeez. They promised Confederate President Jefferson Davis that the Missouri State Guard would cooperate with the Confederate Army to drive federal forces from Missouri and liberate the state.
Wait a minute.
So you got one side saying that the state guard's going to fight with them to drive the Confederates out, and then the Confederate guys, the governor's like, well, wait a minute. They said they would fight with us to drive the Union out, so what's going on here?
It's just like the secession.
What is it? Well, that's classic devil speak.
Right. Missouri Unionists felt that Harney's confidence in Governor Jackson and General Price was dangerously misplaced.
I mean, it sounds like it.
Yes. And that Harney's and that Harney's unilateral adherence to the truce was endangering the state in a whole. It's like, In a stream of letters and cables to the Lincoln government, they demanded Harney's removal. And eventually, on the 30th of May, General Harney was superseded recently promoted by Brigade General. Let's call him General. Where's your brigade? Where's your brigade?
Brigade.
Where's your brigade at, General? It's over there, sir. Anyway, Nathaniel Lyon took over for General Harney.
Lyon, Jackson, and Price met one last time on June 11th at the Planter's house. Planters? Peanuts?
Yes.
Planter's house in St. Louis. Jackson demanded that federal forces remain isolated in St. Louis and that pro-unionist home guard companies of Missouri Unionists around the state be disbanded. Jackson made a wide variety of promises, but all his positions came down to the following. Federal abandonment of the state outside of St. Louis, disarmament of all Missouri Unionists, except those officially enlisted in the 4 regiments called for under Lincoln's April militia call, and no meaningful verification.
Okay.
Federal authorities would rely on Jackson's and Price's goodwill and assurances that they would hold the state for the Union. So they're this governor that clearly wants them to be part of the Confederates. They're trusting him to say, no, I won't let it go to the Confederacy. I'll hold it for the Union.
Right.
I mean, geez, the Union are just, I don't understand these guys
Very
right
smart. In the face of Jackson's inflexible position, Lyon, according to Governor Jackson's secretary, eventually stated that rather than allow Jackson to dictate to the federal government, Lyon would see you and you and you and you and every man, woman, and child in the state dead and buried.
Jeez, dude, you didn't have to go that far.
Wow. Lyon concluded by turning to the governor and stating, this means war. In an hour, one of my officers will call you and conduct you out of my lines.
Oh, man, that's a threat. Governor Jackson and General Price fled toward the capital at Jefferson City, arriving there on June 12th. They ordered the bridges on the main rail lines buried or burned. Right. Burning bridges? Let's talk about burning bridges, huh? After quickly concluding that Jefferson City could not be held, Jackson and the State Guard departed for Boonville the next day. Well, General Lyon promptly set out after them by steamboat with 2 federal volunteer regiments, a company of U.S. regulars, and a battery of artillery, about 1,700 men in all. Jeez. His goal was to seize the capital and disperse the State Guard.
Oh, all right.
He means business, this Lyon guy. I like him.
He needs to.
Well, time.
Right. Price hoped to buy enough time to consolidate State Guard units from Lexington and Boonville, though he planned to withdraw from Boonville if Lyon approached.
So now he's just running. He's like,
right. Jeez.
Anywhere he goes, anywhere Lyon approaches, he's like, yeah, let's go.
State Guard Colonel John S. Marmaduke. His unit began organizing at Boonville, while Brigade General Mosby M. Parsons was instructed to take up a position 20 miles to the south in Tipton.
Okay.
At this juncture, Price left Boonville due to illness and joined the forces assembling at Lexington.
The dude went to Kentucky.
Right.
Well, this was unfortunate as it left the governor, who was a politician, in charge. Oh, yeah, you can't leave politicians in charge.
No.
Instead of retreating, Jackson decided to make a stand. Oh, geez, what are you, Custard?
Jackson's last name.
Because he feared political fallout if he made another withdrawal. That's exactly why you don't let a politician in charge. Many of his men were eager to face the enemy, but they were armed only with shotguns and hunting rifles.
Oh, no.
And lacked sufficient training to fight effectively. Colonel Marmaduke was opposed to giving battle, but he reluctantly assumed command of the Wayne State forces.
Okay. Well, General Lyon, meanwhile, had reached Jefferson City on the 15th of June, learning that Jackson and Price had retreated towards Boonville, leaving behind 300 troops of the 2nd Missouri Volunteers to secure this capital.
So this is the capital. They just left it wide open, dude.
They left 300 troops there.
Well, no, I'm talking about Jackson. Jackson and Price. They just left the capital.
Right.
And fled to Boonville.
So
as soon as Lyon gets there, he's like, automatically mine.
And those 300 troops.
No, he left. Lyon left behind 300 troops when he advanced to Boonville.
He didn't go to Boonville.
Yes, 2nd Missouri Volunteers. That's the Union.
It says Jackson and Price had retreated toward Boonville, leaving behind 300 troops.
To secure the capital, Lyon resumed his pursuit.
Leaving behind 300 troops of the 2nd Missouri Volunteers to secure the capital, General Lyon resumed his pursuit of Price on the 16th of June, landing about 8 miles below Boonville. He landing below Boonville on the 17th of June. Informed of Lyon's approach, Jackson attempted to call up Parsons' command at Tipton, but it was unable to arrive.
Well, of course, he's 20 miles to the south. How do you think he's going to arrive?
Jeez, oh, Pete.
Jeez. Well, the battle itself was actually a little more than a skirmish.
Oh.
But it had one of the first significant land actions of the war. I thought Bethel did.
All right.
How long do you say it can't be one of the first anymore?
Right.
You know,
it is one of the first.
I guess it's the third.
Right.
So it's the third.
After 5, you got to stop saying
I guess so, right?
After 20. After 20.
One of the first significant land actions of the war and had grave consequences for the Confederate hopes in Missouri. After disembarking, Lyon's troops marched along the Rochport Road towards Boonville at around 7 a.m. Damn, these motherfuckers get started early. Mm-hmm. Part of Marmaduke's eager but ill-equipped state guard forces waited on a ridge behind the bluff, totaling about 500 men. They ain't going to do it. They had no artillery support since it was all with Parsons at Tipton.
Oh, no.
What an idiot. Inexplicably, Governor Jackson, observing from a mile or so away, held his only reasonable discipline and organized command, the long-established Washington Blues?
Right.
A militia company, usually known as Captain Kelly's company, in reserve. It would take no part in the battle.
No part in the battle.
The long-established. He held his only reasonably disciplined and organized command.
Right.
The long-established. So he didn't want it to take part in the battle?
I mean, you got to get rid of your losers first.
Yes. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. The long-established Washington Blues Militia Company,
right,
in reserve, it would take no part in battle. So he didn't even...
No.
He made sure they weren't going to fight? That doesn't make any sense. Why not?
Because he don't want to lose his good guys first.
Yes.
Lyon's command encountered state guard pickets as they approached the bluffs, but Lyon deployed skirmishers and continued to push the men forward rapidly. The Union artillery, led by Captain Totten's Battery, Company F, 2nd U.S. Lieutenant Artillery, quickly displaced...
I think it's light artillery.
Right. Quickly displaced sharpshooters stationed in the Williams Adams House, while Union infantry closed with the line of guardsmen and fired several volleys into them, causing them to retreat. This portion of the fighting lasted nearly 20 minutes. Some attempts were made to rally and resist the Federal advance, but these collapsed when the Union company flanked the guards' line, supported by cannon fire from a light howitzer on the river steamer Augustus McDowell.
All right, look at Union taking care of business over here. Well, as Marmaduke feared, the guards' retreat rapidly turned into a rout. The guardsmen fled back through Camp Bacon. Oh, that's a good thing.
Nice.
And the town of Boonville. Some continued on to their homes, while the rest retreated with the governor to the southwest corner of Missouri. Lyon took possession of Boonville at 11 a.m. So what? 4 hours it took.
Right.
The short fight at Boonville and the state guards' retreat earned the battle the nickname of the Boonville Races. Wasn't the other one
it was something.
Philippi races?
Something like that.
Yeah. So this is twice now the Confederates have just ran away.
All right. Jeez.
Mimicking the public notice of strayed animals. Oh, so they left all their animals and everything. Oh, there's a lion there?
Jeez. Federal casualties were light, with 5 men killed or mortally wounded and 7 less seriously injured.
Okay.
There are no reliable figures of casualties for Missouri State Guard, but it appears 5 were killed or mortally wounded and 10 wounded, while about 60 to 80 were captured. Ooh. Lyon seized the state guard supplies and equipment, which included 2 iron 6-pounder cannon without ammunition, 500 obsolete flintlock muskets.
So, no use for those.
I mean, you can if you have bullets. And who uses flintlock muskets anyway? 1,200 pairs of shoes. Hey, need those.
There you go.
A couple tents. And food.
Most importantly, food. Yeah, good for him.
With 1,200 pair of shoes are nice.
Federal casualties were Sergeant Jacob Keebers, Private Marcus M. Coolidge, Charles O'Kelly. They were recorded as killed or mortally wounded. Private John Miller, Andrew Wood, Charles Clifton, Private Reddy, Private Finney, Thomas McCord, Sergeant Armstrong, and 2 anonymous soldiers were recorded as wounded. Missouri State Guard casualties were Jeff McCutcheon, Dr. William Mills Quarles, Isaac Hodges, Frank E. Hullen, and Mr. Woods were named as killed or mortally wounded.
Mr. Woods, huh?
Mr. Woods, Lane Bynum, Robert Withers, Clay Breadlove, William Brown, First Lieutenant R.H. Carter, Tip Garth, John Henderson, W.T. Marshall, Mr. Miller, and W.B. Napton Jr. are named as the wounded.
We got a lieutenant that's wounded. Well,
I like that they named him. That's cool.
right. Well, the real impact of the Battle of Boonville was strategic, far out from proportion to the minimal loss of life. The Battle of Boonville effectively rejected the secessionist forces from the center of the Missouri state and secured the state for the Union once and for all.
Yeah, but when you ain't using that river for supply line, so how are you going to control the state?
Price realized he could not hold Lexington and retreated.
So what? That must be Lexington, Missouri, then.
I think so. Though he would return 3 months later to retake the city. Secessionist communications to the strongly pro-Confederate Missouri River Valley were effectively cut.
Yep.
And would-be recruits from slave-owning regions north of the Missouri River found it difficult to join the Southern Army.
I would say so. Got to cross that river. Ain't going to happen. Well, provisions and supplies also could no longer be obtained from this section of the state, obviously. A second result of the battle was demoralization. While the Missouri State Guard would fight and win on other days, most notably at Wilson's Creek and Lexington just 2 and 3 months later, respectively, which we'll have here, it was badly dispirited by this early defeat.
Right.
Yeah, you can't have low morale already this early in the war, man.
Well, General Lyon's victory gave the Union forces time to consolidate their hold on the state. While Marmaduke's disappointment led him to resign from the Missouri State Guard, he said, I don't belong here.
So, well, at least this high up of the army.
Right. And seek a regular commission in the Confederate Armies. Just put me out on front lines.
All right.
Marmaduke and Price would team up again during Price's Missouri raid of 1864, culminating in their defeat of the Battle of Westport.
Well, these guys clearly don't work well together.
Right, on October 23rd of that year, which in turn put an end to significant Confederate operations in the state of Missouri.
Yeah, they couldn't handle Missouri.